I'll
Oh
let
my
you know after.
gosh, Frans.
All right.
Yeah. People are doing janky stuff with.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
Are you kidding
No.
me? What? Yo, subcritical thinkers. We have a little bit of a different type of episode for you guys today, okay? And it all starts with a story. I was in Las Vegas, and Mr. Frans Rosen himself comes up to me and says, Justin, I wish I could do a Swedish accent right now. I can't do a Swedish accent, but he says, Justin, I've got some amazing research that I want to share with you, and I want you to put out on the pod. And when Frans says that, you say, absolutely, let's go record an episode right now. And so we did, and it was awesome, and it totally blew my mind. I think you're really going to enjoy it. But it is a presentation. And it's typically on this pod, we try to keep things audio medium friendly, but this one might be the exception. You might want to head over to YouTube for this one so that you can see what's going on. Not to say that you won't be able to get the general concept from audio, and I think the general concept is also very valuable. But if you're looking to see a little bit more of the details of the exploitation that he had, then you might see that better on YouTube. So you can go to the YouTube channel at ctbb.show/YT. It'll redirect you to the YouTube channel. And then you should be able to see all of that there. Really great research. Definitely recommend. It's about those request IDs, like X request ID headers, or X correlation ID headers that you see in the HTTP requests, pretty much with every HTTP request to any major application, and how those can allow you to inject way deep into all the pipelines of an application, because that request ID is used everywhere to correlate requests and actions that are being taken. So very interesting research, kind of like a duh moment, like why didn't I test for this? So definitely some great content there. I'm trying to think if there's any other announcements for today. We did launch the swag store this past week. All right. So if you're watching this, which you should be, because I already told you to be watching this, then you can see my CTBB t-shirt. Got some CTBB stuff on the back too. There's a bunch of different designs on there. So if you want to get your hands on some of that, head over to ctbb.show, ctbb.show/swag. I know that's a little hard to say. ctbb.show/swag. There we go. And you can check out that swag store that we got set up for you guys. All right. I think that's it. Enjoy the episode with Frans. And yeah, it's crazy research. So get ready for your mind to be blown. All right. Peace. Cool. We're here in Vegas. Frans told me yesterday that there's going to be some research that was going to blow my mind. So we're going to cover that. And I also want to cover a little bit of this crazy bug bash event that we witnessed.
Awesome.
This past Vegas. So, all right, hit me.
So disclaimer. This might not blow your mind, but rather like, oh shit, why did I not think of that? That's it.
Okay.
So it's not like I think when I present the title. So I did a talk back in June on Midnight Sun, which is like a CTF in Stockholm, and when I presented there, I mean, it wasn't that many people. It was mostly the CTF people that was just busy. But So I presented this. I hadn't presented it anywhere else, and I haven't released the slides. So I wanted to do it with you and see your reaction.
All right,
just because I think I enjoy it so much, and the impact is quite nice as well.
All right, let's see it.
So the title will give it away.
Okay.
Are you ready?
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. Boom, 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 boom.
X correlation engine.
Okay.
What the heck is this, dude?
Do you know what that is?
I don't. So
All
right, let's do it.
This is fun. So the talk is called X correlation injections.
Okay.
And the whole idea is how to break server-side context. And what does that mean? Probably some form of injection.
Of course.
Okay. So the discussion here is going to be struggles, of course. Request correlation. Now maybe this. And then server-side JSON injections and out-of-band RCEs and blind OCs. Okay, you ready?
Oh my gosh, dude.
Okay. First impression.
The mind is spinning. Yeah. Okay, no. Hit me with it.
Hit me. Okay. All right. Okay. This sounds super easy. It's gonna sound super easy. It's gonna sound super obvious. And I'm going to talk about the happy path. Okay. Like we struggled with this for a long time, but this is like straight on to the actual, vulnerabilities. And yeah, hunting server-side bugs, how to reach them deep.
Okay.
Very like, how do I, look at the front end as a border or like the API that you're hitting. Mm-hmm. How can I reach deeper into your infrastructure? And one of those are X correlation.
Okay, dude, I've seen these so many freaking times, dude.
I know.
Okay,
it's a whole, X request ID, X correlation ID.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. They're customized. Yeah. Some of them are, named by the company that has them, etc. The whole idea with them is to correlate every single action happening down to sometimes queries to the database. And the idea is to follow one thing so you can get like a trace map. You can get everything to say that, okay, this request failed. In our microservice world, what type of things happen going down?
So this is so how I understood this was originally essentially a introspection tool for the blue teams, right? Where it's like, okay, here's this weird error that I'm seeing at the HTTP layer.
Yes.
Got the correlation ID, and that correlation ID is attached to everything.
Yes.
Along that full stack that occurs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The funny thing is, when you say everything, that includes the front end, which means that the front end team.
By the front end, you mean the front end of the back end?
Client side.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. So the client side team.
It's generated on the client side.
Most of the time, but what this means is that it is controllable by the client.
Okay, let's see.
And there's no standard, so there's like a shit ton of requests, different type of formats.
Jeez, that's a lot of them. Is that across all the different?
Yeah, this is just examples, right? So company name, like they will have whatever, whatever company. So, but yeah, these are just some of them that I've witnessed, and looking at them from a blank perspective, not knowing the company that you're targeting, you need to figure out what type of header it's actually being used for the correlation. Okay. One way to look at it is looking at responses. They might serve you a unique correlation ID just because you made a request. Mm-hmm. Another one is you can see it in the access control headers. So you can see okay, we allow these certain headers, and one of them being the or in this case transaction ID, but they could be named.
And that's typically in those scenarios where you're dealing with a cross-origin API.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and so these access allow headers are perfect for understanding what type of headers do they actually need to work from the front end side or client side.
That's solid. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one is this is the perfect thing. As soon as you see reflection. Mm-hmm. Especially when you don't have a validated format, in this case, whatever, this is gold.
Okay.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that you will hit gold on every single request. Mm-hmm. It means that this will follow at some, if you find some obscure, you're doing a lot of payment things.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is the place because there will be SSH keys, signing credit cards, and it's gonna pop.
I've definitely seen this sort of thing before, and I'm not sure if we're gonna release this on audio or whether we're just gonna do it on YouTube since there's a visual component.
Yeah.
But the service transaction ID that he has included here on the request side, right, as an HTTP header, is also being reflected in the response with the exact text. So there's no UUID validation. There's nothing like that.
Exactly.
And this gives you a lot of flexibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And this tells me that this has gone, in the backend and behaved as this is our request ID. Mm-hmm. And we will keep this request ID and we'll also reflect it back to you. Yeah, I know.
Shit, I've seen this. I've seen this many times.
Of course, yeah. Now what? So what I did is I started Fuzz. I removed the existing one and then I just put in, a lot of shit characters. But we don't know where we're going to end up, right? We don't know what context. We could be in SQL. We could be in file system. We could be in, a command. We could be in, whatever. We don't know. Okay. Event JSON, whatever. So we need multiple tactics. We need to be smart when in the fuzzing so we can figure out some parts at least. Mm. And one way is trigger errors. Basically, you put in a lot of, crazy characters all over the place. And then
Are you just doing like an ASCII fuzz list? Like I have like all of the ASCII characters URL encoded, and then I'll apply like a URL decoder.
Or I basically do these.
Do you literally just type in fuzz?
No. I do like single quote, double quote, percentage sign, like all of these things where if that one, like a percentage sign, for example, if that one triggers an error, it could be two things. It could be like sprintf, or it could be a URL. Yeah. Those are basically. And for example, if a person breaks, it could be an XML context. There could be also URL. And similar things with like $, parentheses, or curly braces. Then you're
Dude, this is one of the takeaways for me from this event, just from some of the life hacking stuff in Vegas, was like, I need to do more fuzzing like this in identification of what data is being passed through what context. Because there were a couple freaking bugs that I missed this time where they were just literally straight up backtick command injection. Jesus. And I was like,
oh, wow. No, but figure out the context is like, what? It's like struggle number 2. So what I tend to do is like, I tend to put this in the request ID, and then I go on and do manual testing about, API paths. I always make sure that Burp has it inside, keeping it there.
That's why you had it in the match and replace rule earlier. Okay,
great. So then this can happen. So I can work for an hour or 2 hours or whatever, and then I go back and like, I had a 500. What is the 500? Why did that happen?
Why are you doing this to me, man? This is of course this is what you gotta do, man.
Of course. And then this is the fun part.
Because there might be like logging specific to some of these endpoints.
Yeah, I mean, I get excited by this because like I have not made this at all. Like this is we talked about before about like I'm talking about things that I got bored with. So then I present it.
This is not that.
Yeah, but the funny part is that like you can talk about I'm leaving the crumbs, but this is like fucking huge. Oh my gosh! This is a fucking pie I'm leaving.
This is insane.
So
it would actually be interesting. I'm sorry, I'll let you continue, but it would be interesting also to have sort of like an I'm thinking like an autorized sort of approach here, where you have it auto repeating every one of the requests.
You differentiate them.
A differential between the status codes, then you know that was caused by.
Absolutely. I agree.
Really cool.
Absolutely. And like, of course, there's going to be false positives. One of them, like GCP, for example, not all over the place, I guess, but most of the time on Google platform or cloud platform, they actually validate what you send in. Just a pattern, making sure that it's like a UUID.
Strong regex matching, man. It solves a lot of problems.
Yes, for sure. Another one is like, I've seen this a lot, like they actually made a border. So the request ID is created on the first, load balancer or whatever. And then internally it can be, sent over and stuff. But on the first kind of, entry points, no. So that is also common. Those are kind of false positives but that's the interesting part. So let's say you have, as I showed you here, like you have a bunch and then that one says no.
Right.
Then that is still interesting because then you know that there's another system not allowing that thing to be happening. So it's still these are still like super interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we had no idea what we were doing at first. It was just breaking, and we were like, "Where are we? We're probably in a path or whatever." But then we kind of, let's just go through what we found.
Okay.
Because these are fun.
Let's get to it.
Okay. First, path traverse arbitrary file, right?
Oh no!
And this one, I love this one. So yeah.
Continue. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
So the whole idea here, there was if you sent request ID 1, 2, 3, 4 for blah blah blah, it would write it to trace data in the temp file. Important part, it would contain itself. So the request ID was also the file path, also inside the JSON that was written.
Okay. Great. So you've got control of the path and some of the content.
Exactly. But it was the same. It was the same. Yeah.
Because it's the request.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Or like it was a bunch of metrics in it, but the request ID that you sent in also worked. But path traverse basically wrote, if you did like temp data .. and then back to temp data, it would write the path traverse. Obviously, it just took the value and wrote it.
And did you just brute force this or? Or did you have access
to errors? We had access to errors.
Okay.
So what we could do is like we could go down outside of the temp folder into the web folder, put the PHP code as the file name. 100% fine. It will then write to trace data in TMP, do the path traverse, which basically meant that inside this PHP file, you would have the path traverse, but you would have the PHP code, meaning when you went to this actual URL with the tags, you actually got it.
You've got to be kidding me.
It's amazing.
I can't believe they're dumping everything into temp like that. Like,
so they have a worker.
Afterwards?
No,
is there like a race condition or something?
They have like workers that dump this data into the temp, and then they have something picking it up from the temp folder and then sending it asynchronously.
Okay.
So the script itself doesn't need to connect to a logging thing. They just need to dump a file in the trace. Okay. Yeah. So that's what. So
I love that you have to valid file name too.
Yeah. Exactly. It's perfect. Another thing we found was a header injection.
Okay.
Which is basically you provide, they will URL decode the header when they actually did something with it. So we had like a client-side request, added our request ID. It went into an API proxy. We injected a header there because the URL decoded the header. And then the backend service basically. So in this case, we're supposed to see account 123. But just because the request ID was above, it will always take the first header with that name if you get two of them. Dude. So then you can inject another account and then you're getting their data instead.
That's nuts. Did you try like request splitting there? I guess it's kind of like response splitting, but did you try like smuggling in another request? Because I feel like you could almost do desync.
You can absolutely do desync there, but no.
Because you just got off by fast, so.
Yeah, exactly. But you're 100% right. Yeah. The thing we could probably request. Go for it. Seriously.
We're going to get that target afterwards.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another one was Java. So Soros Dalilis made Soros made a awesome tweet back in like 4 years ago. And basically he says that like if you have 0, 0 D, in Java, sometimes that will actually turn into, 0, 0, 0 D, 0, 0, 0 A. And or 0, 1, 0 D turns into 0, 0, 0 D. Which basically means that you can send in C4 8D, C4 8A, and it will be a new line parsed by Java.
Dude, I've seen this also. This came in handy really recently with a JavaScript attack that I was doing, because there's a similar weird Unicode sequence in JavaScript. It's Unicode code point 2028. Yeah, it'll just drop a new line. So I love all these
paragraph separator or something.
What is it?
Is it paragraph separator?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And I love that these work in all these various languages. We need to create like a list of these because depending on the context, there's a lot of weird.
There's a lot of them. Yeah. And he gives some other examples.
That was right there.
Yeah.
Right there. Suresh drops it as well. Okay,
nice. It's awesome. Another thing is playing a simple OS.
Dude, where are you finding all these?
I'll let you know after.
Gosh, Frans.
All right.
People are doing janky stuff with.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
Are you kidding me? What? No.
Yeah.
Dude, this is like.
It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, this is like that Ruby thing that happened a couple years ago with the user agent, where you could just literally put a command injection payload in the user agent.
This was Matthias, by the way, so I'm not taking credit for it.
Matthias.
Because I'm like, no freaking way.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah. Another one, really interesting.
Yeah, this one I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I don't know where this one's going.
No, and this is a subject by itself.
Yeah.
This is like JSON injection is underappreciated, underexplained, and it's freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I've started to assume that like Java apps or platforms, they have a really hard time, creating JSON properly without, modeling. Like if you just want to do a plain JSON, it's actually pretty tricky in Java to do. Like the easiest way to do it is to have like an object that you have like a serialized version of being the JSON.
Yeah, it's like Go where they have to have like the actual JSON object model.
Yeah, the structure. Yeah. So if you just want to make like a simple JSON, it's actually like the easiest way is just string concatenate that shit.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh
like
gosh.
that. You need to do so much things. If you just want to add a property, you need to add it to the model. You need to make sure it's, getting, but instead of like, it's so easy. Just
so specifically for Java applications.
I've seen it more. But JSON injection, the whole concept of this is that we're actually sending in, being a part of the JSON, escaping the property you're in, adding our own property, and then coming back. So in this thing, we're actually going down a level. and then adding a new property and going up a level again. And every time you do that, and you don't know the same property here, you might get like this property doesn't exist. So then you're getting an oracle of what property you were in from the start. So and I mean, I've been doing a lot with JSON, and we're coming to it. I'm so excited about it. It's so much fun. So the whole idea is basically client request may add the request ID. Sometimes in the proxy in between or whatever, it inserts the request ID into a string concatenation of some sort.
I bet that would also be really common in the scenario where they're passing that as a JSON blob from like the proxy on the front end. Okay, yes. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
And then back into the backend service. So from, for example, one example here is that the regular is sending a payload with the account and then having a side property called context. But we then go out of context, put our own payload, and then tries to figure out that it's a count in there. And then, in JSON, the last one is the one that's going to
right.
Unless you're having, a property check, you're making sure. There's a bunch of libraries that actually you have double property. But in this sense, they will just overwrite it, and payload will now be 456 instead of 123. You will see there as well. JQ is just writing it over. So a quick how-to on this is super easy. Like difference between double quote, backslash double quote is a very good indicator, just because in JSON, the backslash will always be like an escaper. And you also need to figure out where you are in the context. And the context could be literally like, this is just one of my example lists of figuring out, like, can you go 2 levels deep? Can you go 1 level up? Can you go, where can you go? Are properties allowed? Are properties not allowed? So in my fuzzing, this is not all of them, but it's a concept. So here you can see okay, now I'm in a property name that is, that one should never work, by the way, but whatever. So here I'm in the property name,
right.
And I can add new properties and I can have child properties, but yeah.
And then you're also in so it's here you're in a list, here you're in a list of lists.
Exactly.
Then you can apply the property.
Yeah, and then I can go up to lists and make a string again. Right. And then I can so it's all about going down 2 levels and going up, or going down 1 level and going up.
Yeah, and I guess you're mostly weaponizing. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Because in this scenario, I would think, okay, we want to try to comment out the rest of it, which you
can't. You can't.
Some
of the time you can have garbage after.
Yeah.
But then it's super easy. So then you have some of them that is just closing it, curly braces, square braces, multiple of them. But because then you can do remember Flash XSS? Back in the day?
Dude, barely. That was before my time.
External interface call?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that,
so do you remember how to exploit the external interface call?
Yeah, it was you're breaking out of an object.
Yes.
A job.
And this is like bringing back some very fun memories of is it a curly brace now? Or a square? Then I really need to figure out. And then it ends with sometimes you've been so deep and you are allowed to have garbage. So escape me curly, square, curly, square. And then you're ta-da! Now I have an object. And then you're getting an error missing property XYZ. And then you're trying to understand in what level you want to inject.
I really, this scenario is really, it's important to have verbose errors in these scenarios because otherwise you're really just...
But we've been completely black boxing this and word listed, and then
but
context,
just because
context aware word list, curating it based on documentation, their API, their JavaScript files, all of these, creating these word, and also the casing of the words. So everything is camel case in the regular parameters. Keep it as camel casing or snake case or whatever. So I've been creating curated word lists that could be 200,000 rows with alternative options and spaces, or is it account underscore ID or account ID or account hyphen ID? It's possible, and you can do it step by step. That's the beautiful thing, because you might see that one property is behaving differently, and then that property is there. It still won't work, but that error doesn't show up anymore.
Dude, this is one of those things that I can see you get so energized about,
yes.
and it's super exciting for me too. But this is definitely the area where I need to grow as a hacker in this black box, really deep sort of scenarios, right? And I know Sam Curry also has just this sort of sixth sense. And I know, remember when we were collabing together at the event in Portugal, just seeing you guess freaking paths, just from intuition, it was like, what is going on?
But it's similar. This is
really cool.
And you need to understand like what are they doing? Like, okay, we're setting a request ID. We're probably, on the sides of it's never going to be, in the middle of the context. Request ID is either something that you think is really important from the start or something that you need to have just because of logging in the app. So it's like, you're always on the sides and you need to figure out,
I cannot believe that I didn't think to look into this earlier because of course logging is going to have a bunch of weird pipelines attached to it, right?
And deep. And here's some examples. There you can look at premature ending, what you're talking about. And if you know that premature ending works, then you're able to do fuzzing a lot easier.
Yeah, also, but because it's JavaScript object notation, right? It also sometimes, according to that research, I want to say it was Bishop Fox that released it a while back, you're able to actually use a JSON or a JavaScript comment in some scenarios in JSON-Injection.
Java has this, they have loose parsing. But you're right. Some of that is also loose.
But there's that large condition, and then there's also the large condition of I need to be able to not end that comment. I need to just be able to leave it undone to truncate out the end. I think that's probably a pretty rare scenario, but definitely worth adding to the word list nonetheless.
Absolutely. And also duplicate properties. That could be one of the hardest.
Some of them freak out about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see, but one example is if you have multiple injection points, you can shuffle the first property, depending on where you are, you can shuffle it one level down. And then you can come back on the level that you were because it's in here that you want to override it.
Gotcha.
So you can go, instead of going down and up, you can go up and down.
If they have a strict schema, you're screwed anyway. So this should always work pretty much.
And if they have a strict schema, you need to find a property putting in there that you can actually, but sometimes you're in a property object where you are loose. With whatever properties, and then this is a perfect thing because then you can shuffle something depending on where you are in the injection. If you have request ID and the ID is there and you have an injection number 2, you can literally push ID into its own object and then overwrite the ID afterwards. That's the concept.
Have you seen multiple injections into the same objects like that?
Yeah, 100%. That is not a rare occurrence.
This is another, man, I'm glad you mentioned this now because I'm going to do, at the talk I'm doing for DEF CON, I'm going to mention some uses of match and replace, and this is a great one to start essentially fuzz across all the functionality, different uses of these sort of headers.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And then we have S3 upload policies.
Maybe of course you're going back to S3 upload policies.
Funny thing was, when I talked with Matthias about this, S3 upload policies. I did, did you do the conditions with large, and he was like, I've done a talk about it. I did it on Airbnb 10 years ago. And I'm like, what? And he sent me a link. We talked exactly about the same thing. So small here, but here's a regular upload policy. You have expiration conditions, and that's basically what you have. Conditions is an array with properties. And we basically injected in one of these. They were constructing this JSON as a string concatenation. So we injected our own object in there and added our own properties. The funny thing with S3 is that you can't add anything else than expiration and conditions. But if you add another conditions with capital C, it will allow it, but ignore it. So you can push, if you can inject into an S3 policy, you can push everything into capital C conditions, properties, or array, and they will ignore them.
So it's
so you can write your own policy.
Semi-strongly typed, but it's taking this. Wow.
Yeah,
that's a crazy find.
Yes, I love that both me and Matthias found it. It was we both tested it, and I love that. And
JWT. Sweden for you. Yeah.
JWT. This is a fun. I love this one. Basically, if you're able to get so now I'm not talking about request ID only. I'm talking about ways of this opens up so many other
custom
options.
Headers,
absolutely. Yeah. Or you're using it. I'm not kidding. It could be there's so many things with JSON-Injection that is still out there waiting to be found. So this sounds like going to OWASP kind of what is changing. But this actually works. Like this happens for sure. And yeah, okay, that is JWT.
Dude, I feel like I haven't seen as many. Well, maybe I just haven't run across them, but scenarios where JSON is being generated by a string concatenation. You're telling me that this is everywhere?
Yeah, you would not believe how much. And think about it. You have a JWT. You have like ISS, blah blah blah. Some people just want to sign their properties because there's another system in their microarchitecture that wants these specified. But you're maybe writing in Java and it's validated by Node.
Compatibility.
So they're like, okay, I just want to write these properties, man.
Especially in microservice world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it happens more than you think.
Wow.
And also like systems where XML is like more common, but they're moved over to JSON. They like you can see all those sorts of scenarios.
What's the read on the age of system that this is occurring in? Like, is it like?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like the newest systems.
Right.
Absolutely not. But that doesn't necessarily mean that new systems are still touched by the authorization system issuing you a JWT, and that's even worse almost. Some of the times you can have like. I've had like, if I sent /u in the request ID and it showed up in the JWT, that one has been like de-escaped again because it's like got parsed by something. And so that is one scenario where you just passed it multiple levels and at some point the /u was decoded. Yeah. So in those scenarios, I've seen it more.
Yeah. And actually this is interesting. One of the things that I always do is I often end my payloads in / just in case somewhere along the thing.
Yes.
It's not escape specifically and will cause an escape. So that could also be a place.
You can absolutely show, and that's a perfect thing. Like SQL injection, for example, you will get an error just because you didn't escape the last, or you sent the escape and it was.
And that doesn't always necessarily mean it's vulnerable because at the end of the day,
you might not be able to actually do anything with it.
Yeah,
it might actually escape. The single quote might turn into
Those scenarios are super frustrating because you can trigger an escaping error, but then you can't actually do anything.
You can't do anything. Yeah. That's true.
Okay.
So the other one is blindly fuzzing. Basically, I can't see the errors. It's happening, way down the line. So I won't see if the error is going to get triggered or not. And it's out-of-bound triggers. We need out-of-band triggers.
Oh my
What do we have for out-of-band triggers?
You're clapping in front of the mic.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Richard.
Sorry. So we have a blind XSS, obviously, right? We have out-of-band RCE, blind RCE. What is blind RCE, you say? I'll tell. And then we have SQL injection, and we have log4shell or make your
log4shell. Yeah, that's probably
last year with this, like just on a payment flow, just because the old payment system was, nobody
wants to touch it. Yeah,
exactly.
Man,
make your own adventure as well. So what we found. Log4shell. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like literally, request ID. Here's the payload.
And so on this one, you probably just injected this $, opened curly braces.
Yes.
And then it aired out in some way, or did you actually just put this payload in there?
Yeah, I just put it. Yeah, no error, nothing. I mean, the payment went through, but it still tried to do that. It was some logging of the.
Yeah, payment. I guess in log4shell it wouldn't actually trigger any error.
Exactly. Just
so you gotta try this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And out-of-band RCE, and that was basically like this was similar to what we showed before, but it would never trigger. It didn't trigger an error or whatever. And you actually
these sort of things, man, and it just tilts me.
Yeah, I know. It's scary. It's scary that you have 25 characters that you can type on a request, and you will have a shell on a large company. That scares the shit out.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you said this is 240 minutes later, though.
Yeah.
So there's there's some sort of additional processing.
It's probably a logging mechanism that is, or a pipeline or whatever that just takes all these. And has the request ID as a part of that.
Yeah, man. And blind XSS is going to be huge here too, because of course that is going to be the thing that it is showing up in these
trace
files.
logs. Yeah, exactly. And they might have built their own kind of trace logs, etc.
That's nuts.
Of course. But here's the fun part. This is fun. Okay. So we need to optimize the blind RCE because it needs to support multiple contexts, and we still want the request. We still want and we want to know where it happens and why, etc. So we want as few special characters as possible. We don't want, very common things. Like for example, we still want to support all these different, like, can we inject inside these, you know, what do you call them?
The backticks.
Backticks.
Yeah.
And then you have single quote, double quote, and also plain, you know, being inside the regular bash or whatever inside the shell. And we need to collect data so we know where we are, like the context. So same as blind XSS, we need to figure out why did it happen, where are we, what can we do here. And here's a perfect example of a WAF block. One WAF block is literally IFS, you know, the file field separator.
Yeah.
And you have curly braces around it. That will be blocked as hell. But without curly braces, it won't.
This is always how you see it with the curly braces. I didn't even know that you could do it that way. But of course that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can't put, the reason why you want curly braces is because that's a separator saying this is the variable. So you can't do the domain after, because then it will be concatenated. But I'm coming to it. You need to avoid spaces as well. Here's one of the payload that works best.
Oh, the @ sign.
The @ sign.
Oh my god.
The @ sign basically becomes a separator for the field separator, but then just sends it to your.
Is it just an empty?
Yeah. The empty user
user field. Oh my gosh.
And this is just two examples. Like I tend to concatenate these two because then you can escape single quote. You can be inside double quote. The backticks will work. If you're, you know, straight into curl, this one, or straight into the shell. This one, this one will work. So they complement each other, and then you get like a really good coverage of
wow. That's a good payload.
That's a really
good payload.
So it's so good that I wanted to have like unique payloads every time I sent collaborator everywhere kind of thing. So I made a poor man's generator where it's like it saves payloads and just so you can have a prefix and it will just like incremental numbers, save a date for that one. So you can literally like I will payload for a wallet and it will wallet 1 and 2 and payload wallet and then 3 and 4 and so you can just like have this and it puts it into your clipboard.
Wow.
So you can just like payload bound, insert that. Payload bound, insert that.
That's solid.
And then, this was it's just perfect. So then you can go back to your burp and correlate the dates and stuff.
Wow.
Or whatever you use in Kaido.
Yeah, there you go.
And then
I'm wearing the shirt today.
Yeah, represent. So what you saw here also, I'm piping it to shell.
Yeah, SH, yeah.
So I need to have something on the side. So I'm doing a collection script. So basically, I look if the user agent is curl, and then I provide like a very nice, like, who am I, where am I, trying to see if like, what's the etc password, what's the environment, and then it just posts to
you're dumping in, man.
Yeah,
that's a little scary.
If they trigger my code internally, it's like we're beyond it's scary because we fucking made them run our code.
That's true. That's true at this point. Yeah.
At this point, it's just it's not, and also like I'm making sure that you know if the user agent is curl, basically the curl they've used my payload to trigger this. Yeah. If someone is using curl and piping my output themselves for some other come on, it has never happened yet. And then I connected to Zapier and I get like an email like, oh, there's an off the shell on this IP. You wanna, you know?
Oh my gosh, dude.
And do you think it worked?
I think it worked.
Do you think it worked?
Do you think
it worked? Yes, it worked. Yeah,
oh my god, dude!
It was extremely effective. It was so effective. They don't stop.
Frans, please stop all testing on this issue immediately.
It worked,
dude. This is better than the bounty right
I
now.
know, 100%. So it's like, okay, this is a very nice pipeline of being able to, it's almost like, you know, XSS Hunter kind of idea, but you're looking for a bug that has quite high severity. Yeah. Or always.
Yeah. And I literally cannot believe that I haven't thought of attacking this flow before, because I've spent, especially after Log4Shell came out, right? It's like clearly everything that is being logged, that whole pipeline needs to be addressed.
It's so important. The request ID is so important.
And actually, I've seen some scenarios actually where companies really care about the integrity of their logging pipeline as well.
Absolutely.
So if you have the ability to affect the integrity, you mentioned before, like
new lines,
the correlation ID
yes,
being attached at the proxy level. Some don't care when they generate it on the client side. Obviously, that's trusted input. But when the request correlation ID is generated at the proxy level, and you can find some way to smuggle it in and override it, some companies care about that because that screws their whole incident response flow.
I've gotten messages like, hey, Frans, we saw your request coming in. Our tracing pipeline is completely broken. You have the same payload for every single request. And you've been, I've been brute forcing or running like GraphQL map or whatever, running it on them. And they're like, we can't open your trace files because everything is there. So they're like, it's useless to us. Can you please have it, run it?
Can you please stop?
Can you please change it on the request? And I'm like, isn't that a problem by itself?
That you should get a bounty for that.
Yeah, exactly. The conclusion is basically you're basically expanding your attack surface internally all over the place. And also like blind and error, there's going to be multiple of them. JSON-Injection. We need to talk about this more.
Yeah, dude.
We need to talk about JSON-Injection. And and I would love to know if there are multiple contexts. I missed some contexts, right? SQL injection, XML injection. It's gonna be way many that I haven't thought of. I would love to hear about injections happening in context that I haven't talked about. That's it. Yeah.
Dude,
what do you think?
That is so freaking
I love that you like it. I love that
you are telling me about this right now.
Yeah.
Dude,
after live hacking.
That exactly. Thank you for waiting till after the live hacking to tell me about this. I could have been running this on the target. You weren't even in the same event as me, man.
You should look at that target.
Oh my gosh.
For sure. Yeah.
Wow. That is super awesome. I think we'll go ahead and probably cut here, and then we'll go do some pod stuff related to Vegas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But dude, thank you for sharing this with me. This is freaking sick.
Yeah.
This is freaking sick.
Thank you.
All right. And that's a wrap on this episode of Critical Thinking. Thanks so much for listening. And if you want more critical thinking content, head over to ctbb.show/Discord. Join the Discord. There's lots of great conversations and chats going on over there. And if you want to support the show, there's the Discord subscriber tiers, which give you access to masterclasses, AMAs, hackalongs, exclusive scripts, and an exclusive chat channel with us. We'll see you there.